Okay, so today I'm going to quickly review all of the tools as the last video was an hour long. We're just going to go quickly through that, and I'm going to give you the name of the tool, the shortcut key, and what it does very briefly in about a sentence. Okay, here we go. First, I created a new document and placed some objects on the screen so we can show these tools in action. Okay, first we have the selection tool, V. V is for vector. Use that to select vector objects on your artboard. Next we have direct selection tool, A. A is for anchor. Use that to select anchor points. Next we have magic wand tool, Y. Well, it works because it's magic. Why? Because it's magic. Magic wand, use that to select objects with similar attributes. Lasso tool, Q. As you look at the icon, it sort of looks like a Q. Use the lasso tool to select individual anchor points, lines, or combinations of anchor points and lines on your art. Next is the pen tool, P is for pen. Use that to create straight and curved lines to create objects. After that, we have the curvature tool, which I'm using as Shift tilde, which is that button just north of or just above your tab key. And the reason is, as you see, the icon looks like a pen with a tilde curve attached to it. And we use that to create and toggle or edit, add or remove smooth curves or corner points. Next we have the type tool, which has a big T as the icon, T for type. Use that to create a text box or line of type and type on your artwork. Right, next we have the line segment tool. Now remember, the icon appears to be going one way, which is opposite or backwards from the correct for the shortcut key, which is the backslash. So remember, backwards line segment tool gets a backslash, and that will allow us to draw straight lines in any direction on our artwork. Next we have the rectangle tool, which is M, and I remember it by my Photoshop days. M for marquee, which is the rectangle tool, and the rectangle tool will give you a rectangular shaped object like that, which looks like a banner, or marquee, which is used for announcing a play or poster for an event coming up. So M for rectangular marquee, the rectangle tool. Next we have the paintbrush tool, which is B. Remember, B for brush, and that will allow you to do freehand strokes of shapes on your artboard. Then we have the pencil tool. Remember, N for nubs, because when I was a kid I would have to sharpen my pencil all the way down to a nub to keep using it, and that also does free hand strokes and lines, which you can then use in your artwork. Next we have the eraser tool, and remember that the eraser tool is Shift E. It's a shifty character which takes away from your artwork, and it works by just erasing through the object that you have selected, and Shift E for your eraser. Next we have the rotate tool, which is R. That's fairly easy. R for rotate. Use it to rotate your artwork around a fixed point. Next we have the scale tool, which is S. That should be easy to remember. S for scale. Use that also to scale your artwork, your object, around a fixed point. Then we have the width tool, and the width tool is Shift W, And remember that because you are shifting your width of your stroke. And so I will select a stroke and use the width tool here and shift the stroke of that object using the Shift W width tool. Next we have the transform tool, and use that because we can transform everything about an object using the transform tool. We can change the scale, we can change the perspective, and we can do things like shear, and it all happens with the free transform tool because we are free to transform everything, which is E for everything. Next we have the shape builder tool, but before I do that I'm going to clear some of this mess off my screen. So the shape builder tool is Shift M, and remember that because you can select objects and then shift them into one single object. So let me do that, and you select multiple objects, and then with your tool active you are able to shift them into one object, and that is the shape builder tool. Shift M for shift them. Next we have the Shift P, which is the perspective grid tool, and when you use that you can shift your perspective, and that should help you with that. I'm going to hide that now. Next we have the mesh tool, which is U, and if you use the mesh tool you can build unique mesh gradients in your objects, and that's pretty unique. So U for the mesh tool. Next we have the G for gradient tool, and that is pretty great. Let me grab a different object to show you an example of that. It doesn't work unless you have a gradient attached to that, and then you can modify that gradient using the G for gradient tool. Next we have the Eyedropper tool, which is used to select eye for eyedropper. Use that to select attributes of other objects on your screen. The next tool on the list is the blend tool. Now remember, as you look, the shortcut key is W, so blend tool is W, and remember that by looking at the W and it looks like a blend of two V's together, so the appearance is blended, and the W, it sounds like a pair of U's blended together, and so remember that it blends both the shape and the appearance of two objects. So how that works is I will select this object and select a second object and drag between there and make a blend, and as you can see it has blended the shape and attributes of both of these objects. Next is the symbol sprayer tool, and remember it's Shift S because it looks like a can of spray paint, and those folks who do graffiti typically do that during the night shifts, so Shift S. Or you can think of Shift S has two S's, so symbol sprayer, and that is a tool that will spray symbols all over the screen in the direction where you're using the can. Next is the charts tool, the CC charts tool, which is J. Remember, you have to have some sort of a job that you're going to need a chart. So J for job, because you need some sort of a job to use the chart. Otherwise, why would you add a chart to your artwork? So J for job for your charts tool. Next is the Artboard tool, and that is Shift O, and it creates artboards and edits artboards. And remember that because Shift O in the Artboard, as Artboard has a long O in the sound. Alright, so after the Artboard tool is the Slice tool, and remember that as Shift K for knife. It is a knife that is used to do something different than anything else that we're using. It is not used to cut or edit objects. It is a knife that is used to prepare individual raster objects for web layouts, and you use that. I'm not going to show you that because I don't have a need for it at this point, and we won't be discussing it in our course. The next tool is the Hand tool. Remember H for hand, and that you use with the hand, or H you use with the hand to grab your artboard and move it around where you need it. The next tool is the Zoom tool. Z for zoom. Zoom, and you use that to zoom in to your artwork, and that should be fairly easy to remember. And next are the color selections, and we'll go over those very shortly. So again, remember the default fill and stroke. To get a default fill and stroke, you press the D key, and that should be easy to remember. D for default. And I'll click that right now, and you'll see what happens to my object that I have selected. It has turned into the default color of a white fill with a black stroke around it. Next, I have the swap fill and stroke. Shift X, and remember I want to X out from my option. I want to trade with someone. So I'm crossing over what I have. I have a white fill and a black stroke in this case. I hit X or this toggle here, and that changes. Well, I need a simpler object. I will swap the colors of this object. Let's get that out of the way. Sorry. Okay, so I have a black stroke with a white fill, and in this case I'm going to swap so that I have a white fill and black stroke, and that again is the toggle of Shift X, because I'm shifting and crossing at the same time. So Shift X. The activate fill or activate stroke is X, and that also is a toggle. And as you see down here in my color selection area, I can hit X and switch to the stroke, or X and switch to the fill. X for the stroke, X for the fill. It's a toggle, remember that. And X is just crossing which selection I have at the moment. Then the three color selectors on just below that are the color, and that one is the less than. Remember, it's the one over there on the left, and that is the less than key. The middle one, which is the greater than key. Remember, gradient is a greater number of colors in the fill or the stroke than just a simple color, and that again is greater than. And then my other option is the /, which I am slashing through and taking out the color, and that will remove the color fill so that there is no color in the fill. And you can see that because the line in both areas of the color selection and the icon look like the less than, or the / icon or key on the shortcut keys. Next, I have the drawing modes. Shift D to shift my drawing mode, and that is behind, in front, normal, which is in front, behind, and draw inside, and I've shown you that in other places. And then finally we have the change screen mode, and I remember it by full screen because you start with normal mode and you can go to full screen or full screen with no menus. And those are the toolbars. I hope that was shorter and, well, obviously it was shorter, but I hope it was also helpful for you to remember the hour-long explanation that I did the other day. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned, and we'll keep this updated.